it's fun, but then there was maybe a turning point where it stopped being fun. And then, you could stop using being on tour as an excuse to use and to be that version of yourself. And you kind of bring it home, and you could go out every night or every weekend, and then every weekend would turn into every other day, and then every other day would turn into every day, and every day would consist of you not partying with somebody all the time. You would come home with like a 40 of Jameson and a bag of Coke, and you would be doing it yourself at home, and it got pretty major for a bit. And you just it got really dark, and things happen in the background in life, and you find excuses or not even excuses. You find reasons to cope or use those substances as a coping mechanism. So there was a long time where I struggled with wanting to be sober.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. I hope that you had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter, and I'm very stoked to have teamed up with them to bring you the third edition of Vox and Hops Brutal Montreal. That's right, Brutal Montreal is back. This year's event is happening on April 15th at M. Telus and features performances by Clutch, Amigo the Devil, and Nate Bergman. If you're planning on coming to this event, you should absolutely pick up your tickets very soon because the tickets are simply disappearing. You can head on over to my website, voxandhops.com/brutalmtl to pick up your tickets. I'm beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Welcome to the third week of Vox and Hops Sober February. I'm super stoked to have Pitch Black North sponsoring Sober February for the second year in a row. They make delicious tea. All of their teas are ethically sourced and only created in small batches. If you would like to pick up some satanic tea, you can do so by going to voxandhops.com/satanic tea. That's voxandhops.com/satanic tea. The Satanic Tea Lord himself has created a promo code for all you Vox and Hops heads. So when you're checking out, use the promo code VOXHOPS15, that's VOXHOPS15, and you will save 15% off of your entire purchase. I'm beyond stoked to have Pitch Black North sponsoring Vox and Hops' Sober February. Now, I'm very stoked that on today's Artist Spotlight, I am showcasing a killer band called Funeral Thirst. Funeral Thirst are an independent old-school death metal act from New Hampshire. Get ready, everyone. Check out their track, Turn to Dust.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
That was sweet. That was Funeral Thirst's Turn to Dust. It's the first track off of their self-produced debut EP, Galvanized in Blood, which is out right now and is streaming everywhere. If you like to catch Funeral Thirst playing the EP live in its entirety, they have 2 gigs coming up, one at Ralph's Rock Diner. They're supporting Sentient Horror. That show is on Saturday, March 25th in Worcester, Mass. And they're also playing Swampton Gore 2 on Saturday, April 1st at the Beerix in East Haven, Connecticut. Massive, massive cheers to Funeral Thirst for being this week's Artist Spotlight. If you enjoyed Turn to Dust by Funeral Thirst, I have put all of their details in the description of this podcast. Go and check them out. Support what you love, people. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that is just a forward-thinking individual, someone that thinks outside of the box, someone that's just doing things a little bit differently than everyone else, well, you should let them know that the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast exists. You can tell them that there are over 390 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. If you would encourage one of your forward-thinking friends to become a brand new Vox&Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, I'm very stoked that on today's episode, I am joined by Blake Lewis Prince, the vocalist of Teeth. And I'm even more stoked because for the first time in almost 400 episodes, I have a co-host. That's right. The very first episode with a co-host. Massive cheers. I'm very stoked that Colby Bungay has joined this episode as my co-host. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox&Hops episode number 395.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today, I'm very, very stoked to be with Blake Lewis Prince of Teeth. This is a special episode because I have a co-host for the first time ever, I think. I think it's the first time in just about 400 episodes that I have a co-host with me that's going to be asking some questions throughout the conversation. Someone that actually suggested I have a chat with Blake because he's awesome. His name is Colby, and he's been doing stuff behind the scenes for the podcast for 2 years now. He listens to every episode, and I knew that he was, so I asked him, could you listen to like every episode and just let me know what ad has been placed in? Because I put ads dynamically into the episodes, but I don't actually put them there myself. So I have Sound Talent Media that does that for me, and I wanted to make sure it was the right ads going in there, and Colby's the man that does that for me. So first off, thank you, Colby. How you doing? Thank you for being here with me tonight.
Can't complain. Stoked to be here.
And Blake, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I just noticed Colby's repping a Teeth shirt, and I'm wondering, where did you get that from?
From your show at the Dom last year.
Oh, in Ottawa.
Yeah. That's
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we speak that night? Everything's kind of hazy.
Did you speak?
Did we speak to each other that night?
No.
Okay, now I don't feel like an asshole. Wonderful.
I have met many of people, and sometimes we forget, and that happens. A lot of faces blur into one another. The conversations are very memorable, and we appreciate each interaction, but sometimes it tends to get a bit much at moments, so it's understandable that we don't remember everyone. Let's dig into it. Let's go straight. This is for Sober February. We're going to dig into the sobriety aspect a little bit later, but first let's start with a very simple question of how has your 2023 been so far? We started off a new year where, things are rolling. How has it been for you, Blake?
Yeah, it's been similar to the last 5 years. I just recently celebrated 5 years sobriety on the 23rd. So it's been smooth. It's been, everybody's happy and healthy, and we're looking forward to another great year. So yeah, no complaints over here.
That's amazing to hear, and that's what I like to hear. I would love to hear about the soundtrack of your youth, when you're growing up in your parents' or guardians' house. What music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
Yeah, my parents were pretty rad. There was like anything from Motley Crue to Ace of Base to 6 Feet Under to Guns N' Roses. Yeah, so my folks are pretty eclectic, and they had quite a selection of music for me to dig through, whether it would be cassettes or CDs that would later on make their way into my bedroom. But Aerosmith was huge. I still do love Aerosmith. Steven Tyler and his showmanship as a frontman definitely kind of bled into my performance. I'm pretty sure. Maybe less sashes on my mic stand, but yeah, all that stuff is the first that comes to mind.
That's amazing. I definitely enjoyed some Aerosmith. I think when I got my first sound system in my own room, I think I was in grade 7 or something. My dad had hooked me up with like old equipment and just sort of made it work, and I was blasting Aerosmith, and I had Aerosmith and I had Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had put out that album with the statue. I think there was a whole like publicity thing where he like had the statue going around cities or something. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, I recall. Yeah, I think it was the greatest hits.
I think it was too, but I think yes, I believe you're right. Yeah, there might have been one track or something, Scream or something. Was that the one with Scream with Janet Jackson? Yeah. I feel like I'm dating myself as usual. Vox&Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives and music, and typically enjoying craft beer, but it's sober February, so we're not doing that. What are you guys drinking on your side virtually? Blake, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I just got home from my son's Taekwondo class, so I grabbed a small black coffee from McDonald's, and then I ran to the kitchen there and grabbed myself a mason jar full of ice water.
Hell yes.
Exciting stuff over here.
How about you, co-host Colby? Well, what are you enjoying on your side?
Jerry Monk, the metal architect, the guy who does Vox&Hops' playlist for how long has it been now, Matt? Has it been? I
think it's 3 years. We're definitely over 2 years now.
So the Thirsty Thursday is a thing we usually do these days. Matt started that 2020,
March of 2020 or April of 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic.
So a bunch of us get together and just hang out and chat about whatever once a month. Matt does a live interview with all of us, but I become great friends with some of the dudes on there. Jerry Monk's from Dallas, Texas. He came up last October, so a bunch of us got to meet him in person. We sent each other a little care package, and he sent me a mango chainsaw, Liquid Death. So I've been saving that for this. I'm going to crack that open.
Nice.
Very cool.
He sent the lime, what's it called? Lime something. It's got crazy names, right? And that was friggin' delicious. So let's see how this one is.
I haven't tried the flavored version of those, but they did happen to drop a skid of maybe like 200 fucking cases off at mine and Chris's old condo last year. But I think we've made our way through each box at this point. So we're tapped.
Good for you, because Liquid Death are hard to get, because I've poked them a bunch of times for things. Good for you for getting getting the sponsor. Come on, Liquid Death. Come on. This whole month is actually sponsored by someone, and it's not Liquid Death. So boo-hoo to Liquid Death, but it's Satanic Tea Company, Pitch Black North. They make the most satanic tea, and it's all ethically sourced. It's a small batch, created in small batches. Dominic, the satanic tea lord himself, is awesome, and this is the Throat of Lucifer, and it's just Albertan Peppermint and Lavender. Check it out, people. pitchblacknorth.com. You won't be disappointed. It's sinfully delicious, as Colby loves when I say that. Let's continue into this more getting to know Blake. I'd love to hear about your first shows. Do you remember the very first show that you went to go see, and was it Aerosmith?
It was Aerosmith. Well, no, it was Blue Rodeo at the Waterfront Festival in Oakville. My folks took me. It was just Waterfront Festival. It was a music festival that happened in the summer downtown Oakville. So yeah, that was my earliest memory, and I'm 199% positive that was my first show. Second show was Aerosmith. 93 Get a Grip tour with Junk House at Sky Dome, and then the one after that would have been Green Day Dookie tour at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Wow.
So pretty solid first 3 show memories there.
At that point, were you already like into music? Had you already dug into the record collection, tape collection, CD collection that your parents had?
I think it probably started really coming into fruition around that Dookie era. I think, yeah, like Aerosmith was always like, I think I have early memories of road trips and like playing drums on my notebooks in the back seat to whatever my parents were listening to, and then kind of came out into my own. Started really getting into like Green Day and Offspring, and all that stuff was kind of popping off at that time.
Your parents were pretty open-minded, but what was their mentality to this new music coming into the house?
Yeah, I don't recall there being many qualms about it. I think I was gifted Dookie for Christmas, so I don't know if they told me Santa brought that or if they brought that, but either way, it had to have come from them. So I feel like they were pretty supportive from day one about all that. They're pretty progressive folks. So yeah, I credit them a lot for being able to kind of continue my passion and love for music down the road. So,
and nowadays, when they see everything that you've grown into, are they still as accepting?
Yeah, I think it all kind of took a turn for the worse when I brought home like my first Slipknot CD. But my stepdad is who introduced me to Slipknot. I'm pretty sure my stepdad was pretty ahead of the curve. He was a big showgoer, and he had seen them in Buffalo, like maybe right when that self-titled album dropped, and he was a big like
that Cold Chamber tour that we all saw them on.
I'm pretty sure that was the show, and so he came home one day, and he was wearing like, he's a big guy, so like maybe 4XL shirt with like 9 masked dudes, just said Slipknot on it, very like, you know, eerie and like mystique look. You know, it was something different. I had questions. I was like, what's that about? Hard to fathom. There was 9 members in a band at that time, so I almost didn't even think it was a band. I didn't know what it was, but then later on found out it was, and there go. I bought my first cassette and then started introducing folks in grade 5 to Slipknot.
Holy shit! Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody had heard anything like that before, and then I think I transitioned into my goth phase there with the nail polish and all that stuff. So yeah, I think when Slipknot kind of came around was where my folks were just like, okay, maybe I don't like, other than my stepdad, of course. I think my mom was kind of just like, okay, I don't really quite get this one, but you know, you like it, so I support it.
That's awesome. Here's some headphones. Go into your room, enjoy that. Hey, Colby, what's your first show there?
I feel so goddamn young compared to you two now. The first big show besides like my parents brought me to see Backstreet Boys when I was a kid. So really? I saw that. Sick. But it would have been when I was in grade 6. I don't remember what year that was now, but early 2000s, and early 2000s. And it was a surprise concert that I was brought to. I remember talking to my dad about it in the summer. I saw Blink-182 was going to Toronto at the Molson Amphitheater. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, Blink-182 rules. I'd go to that. And he was just like, oh, it's too expensive. I'm like, it's in Toronto, so we're not going to go. Then the day that show was, completely forgot about it anyways. Pull up to school. And it was like, all right, Ethan, I'll see you later. That's my brother. And he's like, Colby, you stay in the car. And I was like, why? He's like, we're going to see your uncle in Toronto. I'm like, okay. Why isn't Ethan coming? He's just like, because he needs to go to school. It's just gonna be you and me. And we're like, all right. So then we go there, get to my uncle's house, and he's just like, what do you want to do? And he's just like, there's a Blue Jays game today, and then there's a concert at the Molson Amphitheater. And I was just like, I don't care, whatever you guys want to do. And it's like, sure you don't want to go to the Molson Amphitheater? And I'm just like, why do you keep asking me this? Like, what is it? I was like, well, like Blink-182 band's playing, like, you like them, right? I'm like, yeah. And it's just like, I'm so shook at that young age. And it's just like, but you just like bring me to whatever I want. Like, I don't know. And then it's like, well, we got you tickets for Blink-182. We're going. And then went to that, and it was pretty fucking epic.
I can only imagine so, especially being a surprise. Like, that anticipation, those first shows, like being young, and one of my first shows was the Slipknot show, that Cold Chamber tour. Korn, I think, was another one. And like the whole lead up just to actually the first notes being played was such a special feeling that looking and expect like because there was no videos back then. There was barely any. There was no internet basically for myself starting under dial up. So you had to experience it. Like that Slipknot show, I had only seen pictures of the CD, and then actually witnessing them live was terrifying, but in a good way.
Yeah.
How about your first time on stage? Do you remember your first show?
Yeah, I mean, I see, I vaguely, but I'm almost certain it was a Battle of the Bands type situation. High school band with a bunch of buddies, wishing we were Deftones. And yeah, there was a promotion company in Hamilton called Supernova, which later became Ignition. Are you familiar?
No, but I can imagine where this is going, where there's like a chance for you to do something.
Big flyer. Here's a big show happening in Toronto, about like 20 fucking bands on it. And the more people you bring out, you could get a record, like a DVD recording of your performance that night on the house. So that's tight. Sell them like $500 worth of tickets, and you get like a compact fucking disc. So we like made the most out of it, obviously. But we like rented a school bus, party bus, made the most of it. We were rock stars, man. Right? Like we're fucking like we're doing it. So yeah, I think it was. Can't remember the year, early 2000s for sure. But yeah, got the bite and was craving it ever since. It was just nothing else I wanted to do.
I love that hustle from the beginning, renting the school bus, packing it full. System of a Down did sort of the same thing back in the day when they were starting out too on the Strip, though. So that's fucking awesome. Your voice, at what point did you start experimenting with your voice? Cleans, you can do cleans, you can do harsh. Colby had mentioned in his notes, I don't know if you want to take it, Colby.
Well, but there was aspects to it. Near the anniversary band, you only released like one EP or album with, correct? Yeah. So it's just like Matt at the same time, because that's where he comes from. Like he doesn't come from like a harsh vocal background. He's a classically trained singer, and I didn't know he did that, and I thought it was pretty epic.
Yeah, I mean, dating back to the early days, I think it was just trying to do anything and everything all at once, and then as you kind of become more familiar with the craft, you try to better yourself and learn how to do it properly instead of blowing your throat out and doing some damage and whatnot, or not sounding horrible or having your voice crack, but yeah, I think it kind of just ended up evolving with my music taste. I think as I kind of developed more of a taste for heavier, aggressive sounding music, that would kind of register for something that I would want to perform as well. So I think eventually, coming from a place of listening to, growing up with Limp Bizkit, Korn, Deftones were huge for sure. And then getting into the Slipknots, and then the opposite of December, Poison the Well, and then discovering that whole metalcore scene. And then there was nothing else that I wanted my vocals to sound like after that. So I remember getting Opposite of December for Christmas one year. Seems like I get a lot of sick shit on Christmas as far as music and CDs go.
Go Blake's family.
Right. And then cranking it up on the system at home and just sounding horrible, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and just wanting to give up, obviously. But then, as repetition would have it, you end up developing those muscles and those skills, and you gain control, and then that was it. And then I was just a lunatic screaming again. And then as time goes on and the more familiar with the craft you become, I was in a cover band and discovered that I actually could perform quite a range with cleans. So I think all that kind of just evolved and grew over time. A
cover band. Now you've piqued my interest there. What was that like, and what would be like if you had your track where the audience was like very like, oh, that's good. What song is that? Clean vocals.
Oh man, clean vocals. I don't know. There was we were a 90s cover band. So we used to do 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20.
Yes.
And I fucking loved singing that song because I love that band. And I love that song. And the crowd loved us performing it. And we were pretty tight at it. And it's just one of those weird departures from anything else. Especially in that set. We would do Limp Bizkit and Rage Against the Machine, Smash Mouth, Presidents United States of America, Bush, STP, everything. And then we just bring it right down and do some 3M by Matchbox 20. So yeah, that was probably my favorite, and I feel like we did well.
it keeps coming up on the podcast recently, but one of the first songs I sang with my first band in high school was Push.
Oh, sick. Yeah.
By Matchbox 20. And I haven't edited any of them recently, but I'm sure they're coming up, and I'm going to edit like 3 episodes in a row, and I'm going to be like, fuck, I keep talking about Matchbox 20.
Yeah. No, I mean, nostalgia is everything. And, there's many late nights where I'm just going down the rabbit hole, and I'll find myself listening to like early I Mother Earth, and then remembering they switched singers with Brian Byrne, and that album with the robot head on it is fucking amazing too.
I love that album.
So then listening to that, and then diving into like Old Our Lady Peace, and then going to the Matchbox 20, and it's just all those songs, all that music, that era. I'm probably showing my age, but I feel like we were fortunate to grow up when all that stuff was coming out, and I don't know if there'll ever be like a movement like that again, and if there is, it'll be something completely different.
100%. Yeah. Well, the Canadian rock scene is still like blooming and happening. I just am not connected to it enough to understand it. But there's a bunch of bands that come through all the time that my wife goes to see with our neighbor downstairs that's also in the scene, more of the French rock scene. That I Mother Earth CD, I've been working with kids since 2000, early before, and my first paycheck, I went and bought that CD.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Summertime in the Void. It's a fucking jam, man. It's a great song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic album. A great band, too. Actually, before we hop off the I Mother Earth train, it's great. Before the New Year hit, I believe, they ended up doing a couple shows.
Really?
And
with Edwin or with the new singer?
Both.
Oh, I like that.
They share duties. So yeah, Edwin would go up and do his songs, then Brian went up and did his songs, and I didn't find out until after that it happened. But man, I would have loved to attend. But what can you do? Maybe they'll do it again.
I didn't know that either, because they played a show here in Ottawa as well, and I was just like, I didn't even know they were still touring or anything like that.
Yeah, they're pretty active still. When I found out they did that show, they've been playing for sure. I checked out the Instagram, and they're moving. So maybe we'll catch them. We'll see.
I like that very much. I also had an idea to do a Cryptopsy Generation tour where it's Lord Worm, Mike DeSalvo, and myself on the tour. We'll have to do it soon because everyone's getting old. Are you satisfied now with your harsh vocals? Is it something like you feel like I have mastered this, or is it still a work in progress?
Yeah, there was a lot of time off with Anniversary was kind of my departure from when Anniversary ended. I kind of took a step back from music altogether, just because of personal reasons, and with that, my voice kind of went in relaxed mode. And then we did the cover band thing, which was it wasn't as straining. So, but when we started Teeth up again, it took a minute for sure, because we weren't very active. We wanted to be, and then COVID happened, and then there's only so much we could do. I mean, we were recording certainly, and writing tons, but it was a little bit worrisome at first, because I was like, shit, like,
can I still do this?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm like, I'm kind of winded. I'm like watching old videos, listening to old songs, and it's just like the control I had. And I'm just like, where did that go? If anything now I should be better, or did I need the crutch of substance to be there? I was questioning. So, but I think again, with consistency, the more we were rehearsing, the more shows we were playing and all that, it started coming back. And yeah, I'm very happy with where it's at now. It's a lot of fun. So
that's awesome. And it is work, and it is it's like training. You can't bench press X amount of pounds, take a year or two off, and then get on the bench press and bench that same weight, same reps. It's not going to work, and you're going to be sore the next day. So it's singing, it's muscles. There's a lot of muscles that go on inside your throat. So you got to be in shape, and you got to work yourself back into shape. You can't just jump straight back onto that bench press. It's not gonna. You're not gonna feel okay. New album. There's a new album coming. We can't talk too much about it, but Colby has some questions about the material that has been released. Eyes, Horns, Mouth is the most recent single that you dropped. Colby has some questions about this one.
But the latest single there you guys dropped, Eyes, Horns, Mouth. At the end of the song, how you scream, "When I fucking die, don't bury me, bring me home." I was curious what the meaning behind that is. or even just like the whole song, to be honest.
Yeah, that song's a bit of a commentary on a personal battle within yourself. I think it's a lot of like struggling and back and forth with, I guess, inner issues, if I can put it vaguely. And I think that being in that mindset is pretty representative of being, in hell, almost like your own personal hell. So I think that ending line was kind of a little bit of a send off to the whole song and the subject matter within it. Yeah, it's just like it led right into just like such a disgusting riff that it just kind of paired itself quite nicely with one another.
Wicked. Can't wait to hear it live, man.
Nuclear Blast, big release coming up eventually that we can't talk too much about, but we can talk about the feeling and starting this project up again after taking some time off, the pandemic slowing you down, and then having a massive label like Nuclear Blast behind you. The feelings that went into that, the excitement, the extra pressure, to talk to us about everything involving a new, bigger label.
Yeah, I mean, just starting the band, it was so out of left field. Chris and I, we've known each other for years. We've toured in separate bands alongside each other, sometimes on the same tour. And we were both huge fans of like what we both did. So I felt like it was only a matter of time before we started working together. And he was doing the 100 Suns thing with Corey from Norma Jean and Ryan from Every Time I Die at the time. But they were kind of slowing down, and Chris was kind of craving something heavier. I was kind of in this, I'm ready to kind of do something else other than this cover band at this point, kind of, want to feel what I thought I was missing when I was doing this genre of music beforehand. So yeah, the stars just aligned. We worked on some stuff, and it just kind of started really working. Everything was really cohesive, and it was very effortless when him and I got into the studio together. So things were just happening. And then I think as for a project that was supposed to be really just for fun or just like maybe a weekend vent, it ended up becoming something that was catching traction. So, we put out a couple singles, people started really enjoying them. And, we got the attention of New Damage out of Toronto there. And they were supportive of what we wanted to do. So we teamed up with them, and then things kind of would just snowball from there. Pandemic hits. We were supposed to go out with Obey the Brave and Sudden Waves right before that fucking pandemic hit. So we were like coming out guns blazing, ready to roll. Things were feeling good. Pandemic happens. Everything gets, stopped to a screeching halt. So with that, we kind of just had new inspiration, and we were pissed and confused and, bothered like everybody else that was hit with the same situation. And we just kind of channeled that and brought that to the studio, and we would record a song called Death Race that did fairly well for us. And then, we would just start pumping out singles, and then pandemic continued lasting for longer than we anticipated, or longer than we wanted to anticipate. And then we bunkered down, went to our studio out in Fort Erie there, and we recorded this record. So with that, we were like, okay, well, what are we doing with this one? Well, we would love to, maybe get some US push, because looking at the data from our Spotify plays, we have a lot of love out in the States. So maybe we could do something out that way. And so we ended up talking to a couple reps from Nuclear Blast early on, and those conversations would last, I believe, like 300 and something days. Who's counting? But it was a while, a lot of back and forth. We were supposed to, there was a lot of stuff that was supposed to happen, but it was also like, well, what the fuck are we going to do while everything shut down? So it was just a lot of, humming and hawing. And then, there was some communication turned to no communication. And then I believe the label itself had changed internally. So now they have a new manager, new owner, like everything is being remodeled, and we ended up rekindling our connection with them. And then finally we were ready to go. So I think it was maybe a couple of weeks before we released Eyes, Horns, Mouth that we were able to announce that we finally signed with them, and we were going to be putting out some records through them. And just a wonderful team to work with. It's been been a pleasure communicating with their team, and we're very excited for the future. We definitely feel like we're in good hands, and they were definitely the proper fit for what we want to do on creative and everything. So
I think it's amazing, like a weekender band, something just for fun, growing into something just massive. It's inspiring. It's cool. It's and like you tried probably so hard before with other bands, and like it hit plateaus, and then when you take a break and then come back, now's the time. It's weird. Life is strange.
It is, and it's definitely like something that we've pitched back and forth to each other in conversation. Just it's funny how the bands that you just give your all to, and you just pour it all in, and you work your ass off, and you did some stuff, but maybe it wasn't because you just set the bar so high. When you kind of just lower the bar a little bit and do it for the sake of doing, it's like that's really when it starts to happen, or at least it seems to, or seems to. But yeah,
there's no secret, people. There's like no secret. Just keep at it, and do it for the right reasons.
You said that Teeth started out as kind of just like a fun project, right?
Yeah. Chris was just riffing, and I don't think there was any preconceived notion that it was going to turn into anything until we reconnected, and he was just like, "You want to scream on some shit?" And I was like, "Sure, man." And got into my fucking shitty closet in my shitty apartment that I was living at the time, and we pumped out Destroyer, and we're like, "Okay, I think we can do something with this."
So I was kind of curious of like where the inspiration came from it at the same time a little bit more, because I read some quotes from you. Like there's a quote from Chris where he said you started as an outlet, place where you could embrace anger, frustration, sometimes dark subject matter, because everyone needs to vent. And then you also said not too long ago that Teeth's supposed to feel frantic, super visceral and aggressive. Pain is an adhesive. And in time where there's a lot of pent-up emotion towards family, friends, everyone around us, give us a nice vehicle for people to air their grievances. I was wondering if you had anything more that you could add to that at all.
Yeah, I think just, much like a lot of people, we all have our personal things and our, things that we need to vent our frustrations on. And, there's a lot of deep rooted shit for me personally. And Chris has been through some stuff, and that's the beautiful thing about music as an outlet as a whole. It's kind of like going to the shrink's office. It's just like it's a freeing way to alleviate the pressure that, can be on your mental on the day to day, especially now more than ever. There's nothing but, anxiety ridden people out there. And it's just, I'm guilty of being one myself. So it's a place to be truly honest and write some pretty, uncomfortable subject matter, and just get it all out on paper, and then to be able to deliver it live is just, it's a therapy session. And it's definitely our purest form of projecting all that stuff.
It is a cathartic experience to unveil raw emotions. It's so much easier to do it in this art form, being so aggressive, and I guess it's sort of hard to understand what we're saying too. Unless you're reading along.
I can understand it. I'm not in a band or anything, but I got creative outlets myself. I've always had goals and things I want to do. So something that you guys really like doing, and music is fucking awesome anyways, right? And it's like, if you can let out whatever pent up frustration or anger, happiness, sadness, whatever's going on for other people to hear, maybe help them out at the same time. Or just destroy it too. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of, if not the most rewarding things, when somebody comes up and says that, your words or your performance or your music has helped them through some sort of harsh time. It sounds like a cliche, but you would be remiss for not acknowledging that is what it's all about. So, that's a big part of why I do it, for sure.
Absolutely. Colby, I'll let you take the next one. Something that I think is super cool. As I was reading your questions, I was like, I want to hear about this. Devil's Night, the guerrilla events. Colby, you throw this question at Blake, please.
Have you done just 2 of them, or have you done 3?
2. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did too.
Okay, we need like a description of what it is, because I have a vague understanding of it, but from what I understand, it's really fucking cool. So what is Devil's Night? How did that start? And take us through the whole story.
Dating back to our first single, Destroyer, that was the first single that we had ever put out as a band, and we did put it out on Devil's Night. So there was obviously something special about that date that, you know, was representative of the band. And we, you know, as we made it through the pandemic, we were like, okay, I feel like people are, you know, feeling better about going out in public and attending shows. Maybe not even, so I mean, we probably jumped the gun a little sooner than later, but so we were planning around the first Devil's Night show would have been in 2021. So October of 2021, things were still a little unstable out there, but I think we had just had enough. We were vaxxed at this point. We're just like, we've done everything that we could possibly fucking do. Some of us got sick, some of us didn't. We just came to a point where we're just like, okay, we gotta just live our lives a little bit. Let's just try to. And if people come, fantastic. If people don't, at least we can, you know, say we tried. We knew that we wanted our first live performance to be something special, not just like another show at the Casbah in Hamilton or, you know, just, you know, your typical venue. There was just something special around this band. And as we've delivered everything within, it's just, we've tried to go about it differently than anything else we've done up in, you know, previous years. So doing a super illegal fucking show with a generator at a skate park that's across the street from a cop shop, we're like, why not? So I kind of flew under the radar and tried to attain a permit to see if like maybe we could, you know, get a little bit of a time that we can just perform and not have to worry about cops shutting it down, because we sank some money into this. We ended up printing out 50 like long sleeve like pumpkin orange shirts with like a picture of the location on it with the phone number. We ended up doing like this whole crazy marketing campaign because we were rolling out that we were going to play this show, but we couldn't like promote it online because we didn't want it to get fucking busted. So we did like really creepy, eerie shit. We bought like a burner phone and we recorded a voicemail on it. And then we plastered like QR codes all downtown Hamilton. If you scan the QR code, it brought you to a website, to this landing page. You find the phone number, you call the phone number, and it gives you details that that we're doing something at this fucking location on Devil's Night at this time. So I went and I tried. We were sinking cash into this thing, right? We hadn't even done anything as a band yet, so the money's coming out of pocket, and we're just like, okay. But for me, I'm like, okay, let's try to get a permit. Permit gets dismissed, didn't get the permit. I'm like, okay, I guess we're just doing this. You know, and so, you know, here comes Devil's Night, and we show up. It's pissing rain out. It's cold. Oh, shit. Yeah, it's freezing, and you know, and I felt a little under the weather. I don't know if I had COVID or what was going on. Just definitely didn't feel great. And we're like, hey, how's this going? Set up the generator. We got 2 tents over Matt's drums, just shitty little 10x10s, and then we're just kind of exposed to this fucking weather. And you know, I'm like, I got to go sit into the van and just like wait this one out, because there's nothing more anxiety inducing than like waiting to play an illegal show where you're seeing people come around the corner and you're just thinking one of them's about to be that cop that's like shut her down. So I went and sat in the van for a minute, did a little bit of warming up, and then when I came out, there was like maybe like 300 people there. So like not bad. Definitely exceeded our expectations for sure. And then yeah, we fired up the generator and we just got going, and it was just fucking mayhem. There was some dude was blowing fire. There was fucking people shooting fireworks everywhere. People were moshing. It was just like, it was beautiful. And it was just like everything we needed. It was like the big fucking payoff. And it was just so special. Like got emotional special, you know? It felt so good to be there in that moment after like 2 years of uncertainty and not knowing if I was ever going to be able to do this again, let alone be surrounded by, you know, friends or new faces and just performing again. And it was fucking magic. And yeah, so that was Devil's Night 1.
No cops came though. You got to play the whole gig.
No cops came, but we were like, let's just rip 5 songs and fucking call it. So all that planning, we just did like 5 songs, got the fuck out of there. And then we went to this place called My Pie, which is like this tiki pizza joint. Had like a little after party with pizzas and fucking Diet Pop. It was beautiful. So that was that one. And then the second one, we wanted to do it bigger and better. So we did. Same kind of rollout, same phone number, QR code, did the whole thing. And we did that. So, but we were competing with Halloween weekend this year. Last year we were, but it landed on a Saturday. So we're like, okay, we're going to do the show at like 9 p.m. on a Saturday. People are going to come to the show. They're going to tear it up, and then they can go do their Halloween bullshit after. This year we did it on a Sunday. So people have been partying fucking Thursday, Friday, Saturday already. So we're like, shit, how's this one going to go? It's going to be a Sunday. But it worked out. It was, I'd say double the turnout. We played twice as long as a set. People were just wild, fireworks. Where we play in the skate park is kind of in the alley behind this abandoned building with like smashed out windows. People are fucking firing Roman candles in there. We're just like, if this thing catches fire, we're fucked. But it went well. It was fine. No liabilities as of yet. So we played, and then a cop did show up, but he sat on the outskirts, and it seemed like he just watched the show, so he didn't bother us. Yeah, and everybody was like responsible, cleaned their shit up and threw it in the garbage, and we went home that night. I had to take my kid to school the next morning, so that was Devil's Night too.
I saw tons of footage from that, whether it was on YouTube or Instagram. Like, I'm pretty sure you know Ted from Rare Snacks Toronto, right?
Dude, yeah, Ted, yeah, I love Ted, man. I literally just saw him repost something from you, and I was like, those two know each other? I'm like, wow, small world. But yeah.
But I remember I told him about the Devil's Night there, and he went there and he friggin' live streamed some of the shit, and I was watching it, and it was friggin' awesome, man.
Him and I have gotten close in recent history. He came out to our Barrie show when we went out with Russ there in December. So yeah, and I was talking to him today. He's setting up a podcast. Ted's a guy from Toronto, and his profession is selling exotic snacks. He goes to the States and buys like all that sugary shit and then brings it to Canada, puts it on his website, and then sells it to the masses. He's a legend. But yeah, that's who Ted is.
Very cool. Very interesting. Hamilton is Hell. That's the next topic. Talk to us about that. What's going on with Hamilton is Hell?
Yeah. So in like 2015, I was an anniversary and just like, bitter and pissed at the world because I was like an addict and fucking who knows, and just spiteful to everybody. And there was a dude just like getting rich off of these shirts that said Hamilton is home. And they were just like one color on a black t-shirt. He's selling them for $45 a pop, and he's selling them all over Hamilton. And I own a nightclub in Hamilton. And at that point, I wasn't the owner. I just bartended there, but he would go there and sell them there. And I'm just like, who the fuck is this guy? Cranky and drunk probably. And so my band at the time, Anniversary, we were about to do a couple shows at Attila, and Attila came through, and the first night was in Hamilton. So I'm just like, fuck this guy. I'm gonna print Anniversary shirts that have like the Anniversary logo behind the shoulder blades on the back, and it's just gonna say Hamilton is Hell. And I'm gonna sell them for $15 cheaper because fuck them. So we ended up selling out of those, and then people were just like, yeah, like fucking Hamilton is hell, and people just kind of turned it into this movement. And between the gentrification and Hamilton kind of being different than what it was, than what people were used to, and the rent prices are becoming more expensive, and everything's getting torn down, everything looks pretty and new, and some people might argue that Hamilton's lost its charm of what it used to be. So everybody kind of had this like new meaning of why they wanted to represent Hamilton as hell. So it just kind of this shirt that was supposed to be a piece of band merch that ended up selling out like 2 times over, kind of just took on a life of its own. And then people started wrapping that. So once the shirts had all sold out in like 2017, I kind of just put it to bed. And Chris and I recently kind of got to talking like that was kind of he thought it was a pretty cool idea, and it would be neat to maybe have a conversation about bringing it back and maybe incorporating it with Teeth, because it kind of works, because Teeth very fuck you and aggressive and visceral and all that, and Hamilton Hell connected to it could make some sense. Maybe we do something kind of like streetwear looking, and maybe put some neat little tags on them and make them kind of like a thing. So yeah, we've kind of been going back and forth on that idea. And I think we're going to be doing like a relaunch of Hamilton is Hell, kind of with a fresh look and rebrand it up a little bit and maybe make it kind of like an exclusive thing and do a little run here and there and see if people like it again. I don't know. But yeah.
Love the hustle. Love it. Love it.
Got to hustle these days.
We got to hustle.
I think I could agree. I'm not from there, so it's where I don't know if you grew up in Hamilton or not, Blake, but
yeah, for the most part.
My ex-wife is from Hamilton, so I've been down there a bunch of times. I got friends that live down there. There's people from Vox&Hops that are down there. So it's definitely a weird city in ways. So
it is, man. I've been here for a long time and it still throws me off some days. I'm just like, what is this fucking circus? But yeah,
I've had some wild nights in Hamilton. It's an interesting. The main strip is very interesting. I'll say that.
It is. But the part that sold me on it is the music community here, for sure. So it's I definitely could find, this place is my home because of that, probably. So other than that, I don't have much else to say about it.
This is a sober episode. Let's dig into that. 5 years sober now. You've mentioned a bunch of things that would have been different had you not gotten sober. You were worried about not being able to perform the way you used to perform when you came back, and that took time for you to just get back into shape vocally. Talk to us about sobriety, taking that decision, stepping away. You also mentioned you own a nightclub, so becoming sober in a nightclub is not easy. So to take us through your sober journey, please.
I think it all started like maybe with how a lot of other people started. It kind of became, experimental and for fun, and you'd go to keg parties, and then, you would it would further, you grab like a 60 and drink with the boys in this day, and then other stuff gets introduced and you try other things and all that. And all that's fun for a minute. And then, being on the road a lot, you kind of just, it's a party. Like it depends obviously on who you're out there with, but who we used to go out with, it was a party and we were usually the party. And I think there might be people who decided to not go on the road with us because they probably knew it was going to be fucked at times. So we had a reputation that probably wasn't one to be proud of, but we just like to have fun and never hurt anybody, of course, but we were pretty self-destructive. So we would drink into the early hours and do whatever else until the early hours. So it was fun, but then there was maybe a turning point where it stopped being fun. And then, you could stop using being on tour as an excuse to use and to be that version of yourself, and you kind of bring it home, and you could go out every night or every weekend, and then every weekend would turn into every other day, and then every other day would turn into every day, and every day would consist of you not partying with somebody all the time. You would come home with like a 40 of Jameson and a bag of Coke, and you would be doing it yourself at home, and got pretty major for a bit. And you just like, it got really dark, and things happen in the background in life, and you find excuses or not even excuses. You find reasons to cope or use those substances as a coping mechanism. So there was a long time where I struggled with wanting to be sober, and I did work in that nightclub as a bartender for a lot of those years. And that's a very big party culture in itself, of course. Right. And, Wednesdays were our biggest nights. They were called Motown Wednesdays. So it would be like Motown music mixed with like top 40. And it was just always fucking slammed. It was packed to the walls. And so, Wednesdays would be like the relapse day for me. It would be like Wednesday would be the beginning of the end. You would get to work. Doors weren't open yet. You would do your ritual Jager bomb with the staff. And then I'd go up into my little bar upstairs, which I used to call the opium den because it was very dark and dim lit, and you could get away with whatever from behind there doing whatever. And we just party all night. And then, I would not come home some nights, and my child's mother would worry, and that would cause all sorts of issues in itself, and not having a child in that moment, but just being very unreliable. And things just kind of went downhill, obviously. So we would start on the Wednesday night, partying the Thursday, sometimes Friday, show up home on the Saturday, sober up Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, got to be back at work Wednesday, all over again. So yeah, that got crazy for a while. And then I had a son, and I was an anniversary at the time, and my substance abuse would kind of take on, my addiction would take on different substances at that point. So I was like, full transparency, drinking a lot of, like, Irish whiskey and like Jameson beers or whatever. Loved a good IPA back in the day. And then there would be some cocaine, and then eventually like opiates and pills and things I didn't even know what the fuck they were, but they were making me feel numb and whatever. And so those all kind of took control, and it was pretty heavy for a bit. In 2014, I lost my stepdad suddenly to a heart attack, which I unfortunately had to see happen. So pretty traumatic. And then into 2015, my mom passed from cancer. She had been cancer-free in remission, and then it came back metastasized and took her life shortly after my 30th birthday. And so that all kind of was happening in the background while I was kind of a full-blown addict. So how does somebody who just lost both their parents cope with loss? By shoveling more numbing agents in their system. So so it got pretty heavy and pretty dark. And then I had my son in 2016. So the year after my mom had passed. So I'm like right in the throes of my addiction at this point. On tour with the anniversary, we had just went out to the States, and we just did like a show with Whitechapel in their hometown in Knoxville, and it was their Christmas show. And I remember just being so fucking, like, I felt like a shell of myself. It was just like, I didn't even know who the fuck I was. I knew I had a kid at home, and I knew I was like on the road with this band that I didn't really know what the future held for. And then, and then I just remember it was time to go home. And I think I went home, and I just like went to sleep for a while. I just knew I was kind of fucked. I knew I was in deep, and I don't know if I ever entertained the idea of going to a rehab. I think there's something in me that like knew I was fighting for sobriety. Like deep down, I was like, something I want. Like, can I fucking do this, or am I going to be trying until it's too late? And then maybe I won't have the chance to try anymore. So, went home from that tour. Kind of stopped. I kind of disconnected myself from that band at that time because I wasn't really well. And the band kind of just ended up disappearing because I just wasn't a part of it anymore. And I think I was kind of the individual that was fueling that band to do things at that time, kind of managing it and, fronting it and whatnot. But so when that stopped, I kind of got to sit back and take a look at my life a little bit and just be like, okay, I got my kiddo here. I got, this house and this home, and I'm in this relationship that I'm pretty fucking miserable in. And what am I going to do about this? I just don't see there being a happy ending unless something changes. And I knew that I needed to do something. And so my son was 1 in a few months at this point. And it was January 23rd, 2018 was the last morning I woke up out of like an alcohol and drug induced coma. And I remember going upstairs, and I picked my son up, and he's 1.5, maybe a little bit past, so not able to articulate a sentence. And I don't know if it was my own mind playing tricks with me, but the look he gave me, it just kind of like destroyed me a bit. I felt like he was like, if he could say something, he would have just been like, "Dad, are you okay? Like, are you sick? Is everything okay? Like, do you need help?" kind of stuff. It's heavy shit. So I just remember looking at him and just, as a child who grew up with parents who kind of had their own substance abuse issues, I felt like maybe he didn't ask for this, and I definitely don't want this to be this is not the version of me that I want him to know. And I think I was just fucking done. I was done at that point. So I went through withdrawals and through crazy swings of, mood swings and getting the shit out of my system. Because when you pump opiates, coke, and booze into your system for so long, so consistently, like, you got to get that shit out of you. So eventually it came out, and it was the journey to sobriety and to rebuilding myself and relearning who I was and getting to know who I was again after I'd been a user for at that point maybe longer than I had been a sober person. So now I had to yeah, so now I had to like relearn who I was going to be at this point. So yeah, it was a wild fucking journey, man. And 5 years later, I look back and just you lose a lot of friends. You don't become as popular anymore. Becoming this bartender who was like this, local band guy slash bartender, always the face of a good time. Always go up to the bar upstairs where Blake is. He's chilling out shots, and you guys will party all night. It'll be great. To Blake's not drinking up there anymore. He's just serving, and then later on steps down from the bartending gig, and then takes on a percentage to own the actual nightclub itself. Which was a crazy step for me to still be a part of that culture. But I think as a musician, I'm still a part of that environment anyway. So there's similarities there, but yeah, it's just the journey itself. It's wild. It's again, yeah, I definitely have friends that have stayed by my side since day one, and I'm lucky to be able to count a few of them on one hand, and I'm very grateful because they stood by me no matter if I was drunk or clean or in the wrong or in the right. But you're not Mr. Popular anymore, but I think you kind of take a look at the big picture and realize what's really important in life. And for me, being here to watch that kid in the other room grow up to become a young man himself, and maybe to make me a grandpa one day or something, that's what I want to. That's what I want out of this life. I want to be a part of that. So I think that kind of held. That held warrant over everything else eventually. So yeah.
Thank you for being so open and honest about the whole journey, the recreating and identifying yourself as the who Blake truly is after losing the persona, the identity of being the party animal, going from touring with Anniversary. You meet a lot of people. Have there been people that you have met again now with Teeth, and they're like, and then they don't they're not recognizing you as that person? And what is your tactic in those instances?
Yeah, there's been a few folks we'd meet and be like, you don't take your fucking clothes off during your set anymore and play in your tidy American Apparel underwear anymore and do weird shit? I'm like, nah. I don't know. I'm like, enjoy the show. No, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, somewhat. It hasn't been anything that stands out and makes me look back and be like, fuck, like I was that person. No one's like, you've changed, man. Not in a negative way. If anything, I feel like the support outshines any kind of negative interaction I've had with people. I think people are kind of they seem genuinely happy to see me do good. I think it was being well. Yeah, I think it's an epidemic in itself, addiction and suicide and mental health and all that stuff. And I think some of those situations go hand in hand, unfortunately. So I think that, maybe the big picture is I'm glad you're still here with us. And I'm glad, like, you're not rolling around on the fucking stage, like, half naked, like, just not able to perform, to, like, man, you can actually, like, bring it live now. You sound great, and the energy's there, and you're not winded after. And for me personally, I'm not winded after a couple songs, like, delivering such a high-paced frequency through and through from beginning to end, and then walking off and being able to, like, take a couple breaths and be like, all right, like, I could do that again if I wanted to, is a pretty fucking, that's what living's all about. It feels good. So yeah, I don't think, nothing too negative there.
Was there a moment going from playing inebriated and being a front man inebriated to doing a sober gig? Was that something that you had to get ready for, or were you just always prepared to perform?
I was under the influence a lot in the day, so it's hard to remember exactly. But I feel like I've always gotten the butterflies right before you go out, no matter how big, how small the event is. It's like you still get those butterflies before you go up, and I think those are still there. I think the difference is now is like I just don't have an excuse to be shit now. It's like, okay, if you're shit now, then you probably should just hang it up, dude. But no, it's no, I don't know. I think I care more now. I think I appreciate the hustle and the grind up there more now than ever. I think maybe there was a moment where I took advantage of maybe my fellow bandmates who were up there with me, who weren't as fucked up as I was, who worked hard every, day to practice to become tight for this, like, mess of a singer to come up here and just kind of, do the thing that people seem to be entertained by, but it was more of like a circus act than it was like a performance. So, yeah, I think I look at it all from a different light now. And, I think I spend more time preparing myself so that I can go up there and give it everything I got, obviously. So, yeah.
Colby, you had some questions about sobriety you wanted to ask Blake about.
Just want to, everything you said there is just super inspirational, and it's beautiful that you're able to come through and do what you need to do, especially do what you wanted to do for your son. Like, I'm a father myself. Matt's a father as well, so I definitely understand what you're saying. And it's true to your heart, shows what your true character is. And I've seen what you did with your little guy. You bring him to all the wrestling shows. You met the weekend with you. So you're like, it's going nuts, right? It's having a great time. But,
yeah. Creating a monster. I'm just kidding.
We love them. We love them very much.
We do.
But I wonder if you have any advice for anyone that's like struggling with addiction or anything. And in terms of yourself, you're a pretty big guy, like you're definitely jacked, in my opinion. Is that a part of your recovery as well?
There's like the switching of vices is something that I've heard. People switch vices to being addicted to one thing and then being addicted to something else, basically.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And I certainly have an addictive personality. There's no doubt about it. And to touch back on Ted, Colby, our friend who sells the exotic snacks, Matt, we were shooting the shit at one of the shows. It was probably Barry, and we were just talking about our kids because Ted's also a father, and we were talking about sobriety and stuff and whatnot, and he was just like, your kid's your addiction now. And I was like, fuck, I'm like, I didn't even think of it that way, but if I'm addicted to anything, it's definitely my kid. And it's definitely like a very, so advice, I don't know, man, it's a tough one. I think every person who's seeking advice to become sober is probably unique to their situation. So it'd be hard to give like a general piece of advice. But for me, I think it's just, you have to be ready. I don't think you're going to change for anybody. I don't think if you have somebody breathing down your throat, interventions, the whole nine, I think it can get you to a point of where you're like, oh, fuck, like I do have a problem. Maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously. Maybe I should look at the big picture here. But I think ultimately you really need to be ready yourself for all of that stuff. And it's scary. It's a scary idea to think of living a life completely opposite the way that you currently do if you're a drinker or a social butterfly or those friends rely on you to go have a good night with them. You kind of have to like step back from a lot of that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself and your personal situation. And if you feel like it's something that is jeopardizing your health or your mental health and your well-being or others around you, it's definitely something to take into consideration and try to make those choices, those hard choices, and maybe, look at a different way of life for yourself. But yeah, it's not easy by any means. I know a lot of friends who went to AA or NA and all that stuff. I didn't. I was one of those cold turkey motherfuckers. So I'm grateful for that. But I support anybody who wants to do anything for their own well-being. So if that's the way to go, if that would be the first step for somebody to walk into that journey, then I say do it. Just do what you got to do.
Is working out a thing that helped you towards that? Always been into it.
I've always tried to go to the gym. I just think I didn't do it properly before. I was just there to be there, sit on my phone and like not have proper form and whatnot, just fucking up my body really. But a lot of it's mental health for sure. I think it's like, I think if you're changing yourself inside, I mean, making those changes on the outside too helps, right? You're seeing results, you're seeing a change in yourself, not only up here, but out here. So I think it's all beneficial. You look good, you feel good could be a way of thinking. So I think it's helpful for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And working on yourself and being open and waiting for people to be ready, I think it's very good advice, because it's hard for people that are on the outside looking at people suffering and the person doesn't understand it yet. You can't force anyone to give up anything. So you have to be with them and stay with them. It's a very, very difficult and dangerous terrain to navigate.
And you learn who your true friends are, right?
Yeah, a lot of that. My girlfriend, she's just over a year sober, and I would never, like, we were together for 2 years before she got sober, so it was nothing. I think that if it was something that was a concern, then I obviously don't think I'd be able to be a part of that relationship. But it wasn't. It was everything was fine. There was no issues. Everything was manageable. But she ended up making her own choice and wanting to clean up her life, a year ago, and she went through a lot of the depression of, like, not being friends with the people that she would be able to call more often, or her phone stopped ringing so much. And I think it does get lonely, and I think a lot of that, I think that in itself is a hard pill for people to swallow when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just not easy, I guess.
In the same vein of this topic, but a little bit more light, I have a new segment called Fight the Hops, which is where I ask you a question. We're at the beginning of the year. It's 2023. We're at January right now. Is there anything that, for yourself right now, a small obtainable goal that you've set for yourself that you're hoping to achieve? It could be about anything. It could be a career move. It could be a health thing. What are you doing right now to fight the hops?
Yeah, I just I'm in such a good place mentally and with the band right now. I think getting on the road and playing some festivals, and a big one for me is I want my son to watch me side stage from just, like, I don't know, maybe a festival or something. I want to look over and see him there, and I want us just to be fucking killing it, and I just want to be in front of a crowd of people, because he knows what Dad does, but he's never, well, when he was 3 months old, I had his mom. It was actually at that Attila show I was talking about earlier. He was about 3 months old at that show, and she was side stage with him, and I said, "Pass me him" at the end of our set, and I, like, Lion Kinged him to the crowd. and yeah, his mom fucking lost it. But and I was, whatever. But yeah, so that's the only taste of me on stage he's really ever seen. So I want to share that with him one day. And yeah, I think that's just something neat to look forward to this year.
I completely agree with that sentiment, and would love for my kids to come to one of my gigs. One last question, and I'm going to let Colby take it. We typically wrap up with a hangover cure. That's no longer the case. It's Sober February. We're going to talk about collabs, and we're going to talk about Dawson's hot sauce. You take this one, Colby.
Yeah, so your band there, you hosted a pop-up shop at Dawson's Hot Sauce in Hamilton. It was December, right?
Yeah, it was right before we left for those shows. Yeah,
so I'm friends with Brody. I've known him for years as well. He's a wicked cool dude. His hot sauce friggin' rules. And just, like, I'm curious how that came about, like, where the idea of, like, the pop-up shop and doing it at Dawson's Hot Sauce, or their physical store, came from.
Also go way back with Brody, so that's wild that you go back that far with him. Brody actually bartended at Absinthe, which is the bar that I now own.
I have played Absinthe a bunch of times.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, hell yeah! I mean, that's we definitely pride ourselves on being a good hub for tour packages passing through. I was probably there, actually. But yeah, so Brody and I go way back from those days. But so he's always been a good friend, and his employees, Jeff and Dylan of the Good Depression, which is a band out of Hamilton. They're all close friends. So yeah, we've always kind of been in close touch with them. We love the hot sauce, and always a huge supporter of what he's been doing. Watching him do this since he started is beautiful. I'm very proud of and happy for him. So yeah, Chris and I have always kind of kept in touch with him, and we were about to head out on these shows, which was just a select few dates, but excluding our hometown of Hamilton. So we ended up posting some merch that we were going to sell on that run, and there was a lot of people that reached out and said, "Hey, do you think you guys are going to put these up on the store?" And blah blah blah. They said, if they don't make it through these dates, then I don't think we're going to print them again. And then we kind of got to thinking, why don't we do like a pop up? And we were spitting some ideas around, and I suggested that maybe we did it at Beasley, where we do those guerrilla fucking Devil's Night shows. Maybe we'll just like kind of low key say we're going to be here from this hour to this hour, come buy some shit out of the back, and we'll call her a day. And then we kind of threw some more ideas of locations around, like maybe Brody and Dawson's, because they have a storefront now downtown. Maybe they'd be interested in collabing on something. So yeah, we reached out, and it was like, not a big deal. He's like, fucking, yeah. He's like, absolutely, we'd love to, he says. And he said, we kind of wanted to do something like this, so this would be perfect. So they opened their doors to us, and we came down with all of our shit. We talked to this pizza shop in Hamilton called Shorty's, which is amazing pizza, by the way. And they came and brought us like 10 massive pizzas for people to sample the hot sauce with. So yeah, it just ended up kind of being a night of like community and supporting one another and everybody's hustle and grind. And it was just like, yeah, it was a beautiful night. So we ended up selling some shit. They sold some shit. Everybody kind of got some names that maybe the people who attended didn't hear of before out there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think, I know for this album that comes out, we're going to be collaborating on an actual personalized hot sauce with Dawson. So yeah, we're looking forward to that for sure.
Can you do you have any like ideas on the recipe, or is it all under wraps? I'm curious.
I don't know. Like I like hot stuff, but like I don't want to die when I eat it. So, but Brody's stuff is as hot as it is. It's got like flavor. It's tasty stuff. That garlic and jalapeno sauce, I've gone through maybe like 10 bottles since he's come out with it, which is kind of wild for hot sauce to rotate that much through a fridge, unless you're like a maniac. So as far as, are you a maniac? Because you like the hot sauce? Do you like hot shit?
I am, not as much as I used to be, because I overdid it and ended up in the hospital before. So
no shit. From hot sauce,
energy drinks, just not taking breaks, too much acid.
Yeah.
You got to every moderation, right?
Yeah. So yeah, but recipe, I don't know. I mean, I really like habaneros, and I find them very tasty, and I can tolerate them. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be something that Chris and our palates will have to agree on. But yeah, I don't know, probably won't be anything too extreme, but it's something you can put on your, everyday kind of meals. I eat a lot of like routine bullshit because of like, trying to stay in decent shape and not ballooning up like I was before. So I eat a lot of like protein, rice, and veg, and I'll always like slap some hot sauce on that. So yeah, something I can probably enjoy with that would be nice. For the album, I don't know. I can't. The album's so belligerent. Like the name of the album's so belligerent. I don't know if I can say. I wish I could, but by the sounds of the album, if we're going to pair it with a hot sauce, we feel like maybe we should just do something that just fucking annihilates you when you have like a drop of it or something, and just ruin people's lives. I don't know.
I love it. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Blake, for taking the time to hang out with me and Colby, talking about your life, music, talking about sobriety. Everyone get ready for this brand new Teeth album that will be announced and coming out, and every more details will come out probably shortly after this episode is aired. I'm stoked for it. You guys should be as well. Colby, Blake, massive cheers to both of you for hanging out with me. Colby, you have any finishing words to say?
I wish everyone the best of luck this year, 2023. You, Blake, and your band and everything you want to do. Same with you, Matt, and whatever's happening with your band. We'll see. Maybe we'll have 2 albums this year. That would be friggin' awesome. But other than that, hopefully I see both of y'all in person sooner than later.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Blake, thank you so much. It was great. Massive cheers to you. Thank you guys so much for having me, man. It's been a treat. Cheers.
Cheers.
Colby, great job on the co-hosting.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome conversation. I was so stoked that Colby introduced me to Blake. You were just awesome, so open, so honest, so just humanistic is the word that comes to me. Thank you for being vulnerable, for showcasing vulnerability in such an extreme metal genre. I love it. I love it. I can't love it enough. We are all vulnerable people. Even the most tough and most ferocious people, we are also vulnerable, and it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to tackle those issues head on and to ask for help and to seek out help and to make yourself better and to find great things in your life that you should be addicted to instead of the bad things. So massive cheers to Blake for being so amazing and so open and so honest. I can't thank you enough. And a massive cheers to Colby for doing a killer job as a co-host. I enjoyed this. I hope that you did too, bud. And, we should do it again. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week that will contain all of the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You'll get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You will get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will also get to hear about any projects I have in the works, and I am building 3 massive projects all at once right now, and I'm hinting at them in the newsletter, so if you want to hear about that, sign up to the newsletter. You will also get to see which albums the Vox and Hops album review crew have reviewed recently, and you'll get to see which albums Jerry Monk, Vox and Hops' metal architect, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is always packed with just the most killer recent metal stuff. If you're looking for new music to listen to, well, the Brutal Awakenings playlist is what you want to be listening to. There is always a lot of killer stuff going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, and I hate when you miss a single thing, so do me a favor and sign up to the mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week with the final episode of Vox and Hops' Sober February 2023, which is sponsored by Pitch Black North. Get yourself some satanic tea, people, because it's sinfully delicious. But until then, I hope you all remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.